Hello friends, SentinalhMC here, and welcome back to our Applied Energistics tutorial series. In this episode, I am going to show you the possibly long-awaited, fully automated Inscribers setup. There's many ways of doing it. This is the way to do it using only Applied Energistics. It will allow you to request logic circuits, and it will make them and give them to you. So great. This is one of the first fully automated crafting setups I recommend building in Applied Energistics, because manually making these processors is really annoying. Now, before we get into all that, however, I did want to make one little bitty addendum to the last video I did on this world, which was this immersive engineering silo thing. I never actually showed you how to get items out of this thing. You get them out by pulling this lever, by putting a lever on it, and then putting an inventory next to it. Anyway, this thing was still sitting here, so I figured I may as well talk about that briefly. Alright, let's get into Applied Energistics. In order to build this system, we're going to need one thing that we haven't talked about yet, so we're going to do that now. And that's these upgrade cards. Now, in a number of different machines, you'll see these little slots on the right. These are for upgrade cards. Different machines can have different types of upgrade cards and different amounts. This Inscriber, for example, can have 3 upgrade cards. We're going to need the capacity card, which, as you may expect, increases the size of inventories. In order to build that, we're going to need to make the basic card first. So in order to craft that, and you get 2 for this, you're going to need a calculation processor, 3 iron ingots, 2 gold ingots, and some redstone dust. That'll give you 2 basic cards. You're going to take one of those basic cards, and you're going to combine it with a Certus Quartz crystal. It doesn't have to be pure. You can use the standard Certus Quartz crystal as well, the one that you mine out of the ground. But you may as well use pure, in my opinion. That'll give you a capacity card. You're going to need 2 of these. So you're going to need to make both of those basic cards that you crafted into capacity cards, because we need 2 of them for this build. Alright. Other than that, you're going to need some gold ingots, some diamonds, some pure Certus Quartz crystals, some redstone, some silicone. You're going to need to go ahead and make yourself one of each printed circuit, as well as a printed silicone. And you're going to need one of each processor already crafted, so that you can program various things into the computer. Okay? We're also going to need some sort of storage. So in my case, I'll use an ME chest, but for you, this could just be attaching it to your ME network using a drive, and you may have drives set up or whatever. I'm going to use an ME chest. You're going to need a storage cell. You're going to need a 1K crafting storage computer. At least one of these. This is the bare minimum that you need. You're going to need an ME pattern terminal for setting up the patterns. You're going to need some cable. It doesn't have to be smart cable. I'm going to use smart cable to show you that this does work, so that you can see the channels. You're going to need an ME interface in block form. You're going to need an ME interface in part form. You're going to need a couple pieces of quartz fiber cable. You'll need some export buses, and you'll need a bunch of storage buses. You're going to need 5 or 6 storage buses. You'll also need a Certus Quartz wrench or another Omni tool from another mod. And let's take a look at how to craft this wrench. The reason you need this is because we're going to rotate, at least for this build, we're going to rotate these Inscribers. So we need a way of doing that. I know that you can use screwdrivers and Omni wrenches from other mods, but in case you don't have one of those made, you can just make the Certus Quartz wrench from Applied Energistics, which is crafted using 5 Certus Quartz crystals. Now, it's important to note that you need to use the normal crystals. This will not work with pure crystals. They're, I guess, too fragile. So we're going to need a way of rotating our Inscribers. We're going to need 5 Inscribers and then a power source. I'm going to use a creative energy cell. Alright? Now I'm going to come over here and show you the system that we're going to be building. This Inscriber system has 5 Inscribers. One of them's on the back. It uses export buses, storage buses, an interface in block and part form in order to auto craft whatever you want. So I can go into this terminal, I can tell the system to craft as many of these as I want, 10 of these, hit next, hit start. The system starts working and it begins crafting 10 processors. It's going to take a while because processors take a while to craft because the inscribers are slow unless you upgrade them with cards. But as you can see, it is crafting the things that I requested it to craft. This is what we're going to build. Alright, so let's go over here and we're going to build this thing. So the first thing you want to do is you want to lay down 4 inscribers. They don't have to be laid out like this. I'm going to lay it all out like this because this is actually quite compact and will save you on resources. Being compact always saves resources, so it's kind of nice. So we're going to place down 4 inscribers like this, and then we're going to put some inscriber plates in them. Now, I'd actually have to grab myself some more of those because I put them in the other one. So you are going to need each of the inscriber plates, inscriber presses. There's that one, there's that one, and that one, and there's that one. Alright. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to place our one inscriber press in each of these. Now, it doesn't matter which of these you put it in. As long as you put it in the top slot, and as long as later on, in one of our future steps, you remember or check which one you put it in. Now we're going to use our Certus Quartz wrench, and we're going to rotate our inscribers until the plate shows up on the left. Alright? And we're going to rotate this one as well. So there we have our 3 inscriber plates. We have our logic one, our calculation, and our engineering. I think that's what I did there. Engineering and calculation. Never mind. Once you have this, you want to go ahead and take an ME export bus and slap it on the side of this inscriber. Take a piece of quartz fiber and put it right here on top of this inscriber. Connect those 2 things together with some ME cable of any kind. Well, obviously not dense, but of any other kind. And then take an ME storage bus and stick it there. Now go into the ME export bus and tell it to export printed silicone. So take your printed silicone and click it in there. Let me briefly explain what this is going to do after we do the next step of just taking another inscriber and plonking it on the back of this storage bus. Let me explain what this is going to do. This inscriber right here is going to be for our printed silicone, so put the silicone press in it. When silicone gets sent to this inscriber, it's going to print out the printed silicone. The printed silicone is going to be go into this storage bus briefly, and then be exported into this inscriber. And now, the funny thing about this is that these 3 things here, this one piece of cable, this one export bus, and this one storage bus are on their own little tiny sub-network. That's what this quartz fiber does. It powers it, but these 2 devices are on their own little network. That's important because if you don't do that, you won't have enough buses for this setup, and you're going to have to run some additional cable. The way that this setup is built, you don't need an ME controller to run it. You actually don't. This setup uses only 8 channels. But you see we're using 2 channels here, so this is on a little sub-network. Alright, so when this inscriber prints the silicone, this export bus wants it, so it goes through the storage bus and it goes in there. And the storage bus will act as a buffer. So, you know, if this thing prints, I don't think it'll happen where this thing can print enough to put more than one in here at a time, because it'll just go in there. But if it did, the storage bus would hold on to it. Alright? I hope that's not confusing. I hope you understand where we're going with that. Now that you have that done, we'll come around to the back, and we're going to take some storage buses, and we're going to slap one on the back of each one of these, and on the side of this inscriber. So that's 5 more storage buses. Okay. Now we have to right-click on these and tell them what they can store. For the one that's on the back of the upper inscriber, you want to tell it to store redstone. For the one on the silicone inscriber, well, we're going to want it to store silicone. Now we have to remember which one is which of these inscribers. This inscriber on our left is our logic one, which requires gold. So we're going to right click on that storage bus and tell it to store gold. Our middle one was an engineering press. So we're going to tell it to store diamonds. And our last one was our calculation press. So we're going to tell it to store pure Certus quartz crystals. So it doesn't matter which one of these you have those in, as long as you make sure that you match the storage buses up properly. Okie doke. Excellent. Now we're going to take an export bus and we're going to stick it here on the side of this inscriber. What this export bus is for is this is how our printed circuits from these inscribers are going to get into this inscriber, which is the one that puts it all together. Okay? So we know that this export bus is putting our silicone in. This export bus is now going to put our printed chips in there, and then the storage bus is going to put our redstone in it. Now, in order to do that, we have to tell the export bus that it needs to export these 3 items, the printed circuits. However, by default, there's only one slot available. That's where our capacity card comes in. So stick 1 in there, and now we have 5 slots. Now, we only need 3. So take each of your printed circuits, not the completed processor, just the printed circuits, and stick 1 of each in the export bus. So now this export bus knows that it needs to put those into this inscriber. Very, very important. Now we're going to grab our cable. Remember, this can be of any type. I'm using Smart so I can show off the channels. And we're going to connect everything together. We're going to put one there, there, and now we're going to run one to each one of these. Now you see the benefit of having this so compact. We can get away with using very little cable, which saves some resources. Alright. Okay. The next thing we need to do is figure out our power situation. For this demonstration, I'm going to place my energy cell right here. But all this is representing is that you need to connect this thing to power. But you do need to be a little careful of how you connect it to power. So, because all we want is power out of this, we're going to go ahead and just use some quartz fiber there and hook it up. Now everything's powered. The important thing is that you don't plug this, because this probably represents the rest of your network, because you're probably getting power from the rest of your network. Don't connect that over here to this little sub-network. Leave that all by itself. Anything that you're plugging into this, plug it in on this side. Okay? Now, this works well for our purposes being right here, because we're going to put a block in this space. However, I do want to show you one additional thing that this setup can do for you. So I'm going to place one piece of cable right here. And now I'm going to place a couple more things. I actually have to go check what that is. No, it's nothing. It's just a thing. Okay. So, what you can do, if you want, and I don't actually recommend it. In fact, I actually do need to go check this because I just forgot what it is. Ah, that's an export bus. Yep. Alright. You need to place an export bus right there. Okay? This is the export bus that's going to take our completed product and stick it in, back into your system to give it to you. Okay? Fantastic. You now have a choice. You can use the ME auto crafting system, or if you're earlier in the game and you haven't gotten that built yet, you can actually just take a chest and stick it here. If you want to do that, you need to put an import bus right on here and then stick a chest here. And then you just slap a bunch of resources in there, or just one at a time, or each one, and they'll automatically go into these presses, and the presses will start pressing things, for as much resources as you stick in the chest. However, we're not going to do that because we like to automate things and make them a bit cleaner. So, in the interest of the auto crafting system, we're going to take and put an interface on this little piece of cable. Okay? Then we're going to take our interface block and place it there. Yeah, the entire thing just turned off. Wait, why did the entire thing just turn off? Shouldn't have. It didn't over here. Oh, I got that wrong. It goes like that. Don't be a dingus like me and put your quartz fiber on the wrong spot, because we need to actually put data through this thing. Okay, so now that you did it right, not stupidly like me, you have an ME interface with an ME interface attached to it. Now, you may think that sounds weird, but what this ME interface is going to do is it's going to act as a buffer. Okay? Once the item gets crafted in this thing, this inscriber, this interface is going to grab it. Right? Now, that interface just acts as a buffer, so we're going to put it there. It also ensures that this is on a separate network, technically. Now, we want to plug in whatever else we're going to plug into this. So in our case, we're going to plug in an ME chest. Remember, this is just standing in for whatever storage solution you have. And we're going to put our storage cell in there, and then we're going to place our 1K crafting CPU right there. Okay? Now we're going to take our pattern terminal, and we're going to stick it here. And now, the system is done as far as placing blocks goes. Now we have to tell it how to work. So we need to go into our pattern terminal with our blank patterns. In fact, I need to go grab some blank patterns from over here. I left them all in the machine. So we're going to take some blank patterns, and we're going to stick them in here. Now, I didn't actually mention this in the last episode about the auto crafting system. I should have, but I didn't. I forgot. See this little button where it says crafting pattern? If you click this, it switches to processing pattern. This allows you to use non-standard recipes in a blank pattern, which is amazing. This is what will allow you to tell your system how to craft literally everything, including furnace recipes and stuff like that. You can put anything in here and put anything in the output, and it'll tell your system, hey, if you send this many of this to whatever block this is, it doesn't even care, you're going to get this out. So that's how you can automate furnace recipes and things from other mods and various things like that. We're going to use it to automate these things. So what you need to do is program it to craft these processors. So it's going to be 1 gold ingot, 1 silicone, and 1 redstone equals 1 logic processor. Click encode. Now you have that one. Next, we'll take these out. It's going to be a diamond, a silicone, and a redstone dust equals an engineering processor. It's important that you only have 1 of each item in here because the amounts matter. If I accidentally click this entire stack in here, then this pattern is going to think that you need a whole stack of diamond to craft this thing, and that's not going to work. So make sure you do this right. There's that one. And now our pure Certus quartz equals our calculation processor. Because when you're working with these processing patterns, you have to make sure you do this exactly right. Okay? Bang. If I hold shift, you can see each one of these, and we can double check. 1 gold, 1 redstone, 1 silicone equals 1 logic processor, a diamond, redstone, and silicone engineering, a pure Certus, redstone, and silicone, a calculation. Good. These are all correct. Now we can go ahead and place these in the system. You want to place them in the ME interface, the block version. So simply place these in the pattern slots at the bottom. And that's it. Now if I go in here, you can see I can craft these things, although I have to put some items in my system first. So let's put the raw materials in here. So all we have in here are the raw materials. See? And we're going to tell it to craft a logic processor. And start. And you can see the items going into their places. Here's our silicone getting pressed. It gets pulled out. It gets put up here where our other thing is already waiting. And then it gets pressed like so. It takes a while for it to come out. Actually, it's not coming out. Let's figure out why, shall we? By looking at the one that works. Well, I don't see anything. Ah, that's what we did wrong. That's what I forgot to do. So this just illustrates that forgetting a step is very makes the whole thing not work. This export bus back here is supposed to be the one that sends our finished products back into the system. Because right now the system doesn't know how to get the items back in, it just sits there. So what we need to do is right click on this ME export bus, place a capacity card in it, and then tell it to export our completed processors. Now that we've done that, you can see the processors no longer in the Inscriber, and it's showing up in our system. So let's go ahead and craft one of each of the rest of them. As you can see, the actual these two components are the first ones to be crafted. And what actually holds up production on these the most is the fact that this top press just takes forever to activate once it has all its items. So the Inscribers are what slows this system down a bit. But we just crafted an engineering processor. Now let's craft a calculation processor. There's our pure Certus quartz getting pressed. There's our redstone dust awaiting. There that is. There's the silicon. And there's our processor. So you can request as many of these as you want, like we saw over there. And the beautiful part about this system is that because it's a sub network, it doesn't take any channels away from your primary ME network. These blocks over here would be part of your primary network, so you need about 4 channels. But all this stuff is just a free rider, takes care of itself. Does need a decent amount of power, but that's it. So you can easily add this to any ME system. And another great part about it is that you don't have to craft these manually. If you now that the system knows how to craft these 3 things, if you tell it, if you put create a pattern for anything that uses these, then it'll be able to craft those for you. So let me give you an example. Remember those blank basic cards? Why don't we create a pattern to craft those? Like so, like so, and like so. Basic cards. If I encode this pattern, there's our pattern. And I place this in our system. I'm pretty sure I can just stick it in this interface. Actually, no. We would need a molecular assembler for this. So let's go ahead and grab one of them. I'm just showing you right now how you can use this thing as part of your overall system. We're going to place... Well, our molecular assembler needs to be on an interface. We can actually place it right here. Okay? Now that we have a molecular assembler, we'll be able to actually use this thing. So we can place our pattern for our basic cards right here, because this interface is connected to our molecular assembler. And now, if I request basic cards, I'm missing the iron. I didn't put the iron in the system. Alright, there we go. If I request basic cards. Well, it already crafted that because we already had the processor. So let's do that again. Now we don't have any of these processors available. So we'll go ahead and press start. And it's going to craft ourselves. It's going to craft us a calculation processor. And once it's done, it's going to put it into the molecular assembler and craft our blank patterns. So as you can see, this system is very, very functional. I think this is a system that every ME network should have, because otherwise crafting these things gets really tedious. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about this machine, about the setup, I hope I went slow enough so that you can, so that you can rewind the video and pause it to see what you need to see. And stay tuned for future episodes. I'm SentinalH, and I'm signing out.